call this meeting of the Prosper Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present. That this meeting has been duly called and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.
Did you,
So we have the special business you see here.
Mr. Bridges, could you please, for the record, call for attendance for the board?
Oh, good. Yeah, sorry. So what do you mean to do? Just call the roll?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Okay, so Ms. Thompson.
I am here.
All right, Mr. Beavers.
Here.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. McBride.
Here.
Mr. Cavender.
Present.
Mr. Davenport.
Here.
Great.
Here.
And I show up as Patrick O'Neill, but that's not me. This is Jim Bridges. Okay.
If at any time we're having audio issues, and for those that are attending from the community, excuse me, also try to let us know if you're having any trouble on your end. This is our first effort in trying to do a remote meeting, so we want to make sure that if we have to have future meetings this way, that we certainly are able to do that as efficiently and as effectively as we can for everyone. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Good. So we have four items on our agenda. Drew, do you want to walk us through these?
Yes, sir. The first one is probably the more pressing one of everything, and that's to take official action to postpone the May 2nd, 2020 election due to the COVID-19, and that's to the governor's declaration of that section there, and that's his recommendation. The Collin County elections and Denton County elections recommendation. They did say, if y'all are going to want to have an election, we're not going to provide anybody, so you're going to do it all yourself. So it's de facto postponed anyway, but we've already notified the candidates, so we need to take official action for this.
Did the town vote on Tuesday to do that as well?
Yes, sir. So they've already postponed their election.
All right. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
No. I do know that the town already posted that information about the postponement to the November election.
Okay. Anybody have any concerns about doing this?
Again, just with the guidance that we've been given, and with what we understand to be accurate today, the filing window, it's basically freezing everything for the most part. There is an exception, freezing everything in time today and moving it to November. So the filing window for candidacy is locked in as it was for this election. So there's no new filings for the November election. The exception possibly is, because the only reason I say it's still an exception possibly is one governmental entity is not consistent with what another governmental entity is saying at the state level, and that is the date to withdraw from candidacy. That might be reopened. So the candidates are frozen, if you will. But if there's a candidate rethinks their idea about running in the November election, there will be a window for them to withdraw again. So right now we'll wait to see when we get more consistent direction on that. That's the only thing right now that is
okay. And Ms. McBride would continue to fulfill her term.
Yeah.
Good
point. Ms. McBride's term, Ms. McBride, and quite honestly, Ms. Smith's term extends to November, and so whoever then, we know Ms. Smith is in, but whoever then is ultimately in the other seat, that term will just be a shorter term. It will be a 2.5-year term. and not a full 3-year term.
Right.
Okay.
So you don't, we don't have to recalculate the math on the term and everything else. It's just this one moment in time, whoever's put in the November election, that will then serve those board members will serve a 2.5-year term before their next election.
Okay, good. Any other questions or concerns or thoughts before we vote on this?
No, all good here.
Okay, well then this requires a motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, Jana.
And
Second,
I'll
Kelly.
second.
Great. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, it's a unanimous vote to move the election. Okay, number 2.
The next item is well, back to it. All right, I want to skip. Really, B really folds into D. So let's jump to C right now, which is consideration and possible action on approval of appraisal waiver of the appraisal waiver regarding T-test and T-pass as a result of school closure. Toward the end of the year is when everyone's wrapping up their evaluations and in terms of T-test and T-pass. TEA has now issued a waiver for that. They said this is something that's, I guess this is one's the most urgent, because if we waited to the April 20th meeting on this, then everybody would have been required to continue the T-test somehow between now and April 20th. So this goes into effect as soon as you take action. And that's the date put on the waiver for that. So I recommend that you approve seeking appraisal waiver for T-test and T-pass.
All right, it's an item that requires a motion.
I make a motion to approve the appraisal waiver.
Thank you, Deborah. Do we have a
This
second?
is Mays. Mays, I'll
Is that
second.
Mays? Yep, thank you, Mays. All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we have unanimously voted to make that waiver.
The reason there's that. The reason I was jumping from B to C is because D is a more comprehensive to where it includes out of paying people. And looking at this page, this is basically granting the superintendent the authority to do these things when we're not able to meet. So it's basically COVID-19 crisis. Things are moving pretty quickly. Sometimes we need to move very quickly. You would be granting me the authorization to do that. I will let you sort of look at that 1 through 10. And I
Yeah,
think,
give us a
let me
second.
see where it says number 2 talks about the authority regarding compensation of exempt and non. That's really what B is saying, which was a resolution. But I might want to just be extra careful and go back to B anyway, declaring a public purpose. But let's do this right now if you're okay with it.
So that means it's worth walking through. So number 1 is we're going to give you the authority to pay employees during the emergency closure. Number 2 is to make decisions regarding exempt and non-exempt employees. Number 3 is to alter the school calendar. 4 is just judgment, allowing you judgment about employees and how to treat their time off and compensation for those that are quarantined.
Mm-hmm.
Seeking waivers from TEA.
They keep changing that. It's called an attestation form. You signed it the other day, Mr. Bridges. They've changed the form since then. So we'll need to get another set of signatures, but
Right.
that's what that is.
Authority to declare catastrophe. Okay. Now, did Mari pull this together for us?
Yes.
The authority to procure, negotiate, execute contracts. So you have that authority, but this is just to waive our threshold? Is that what this
No,
is?
well, not really. No. And again, keep in mind this stuff here on all this. This is if we're not able to get a board meeting in. So it's not granting the authorization to just do things whenever. It's if we're not able with the time required. In some respect, not much different than how it's been. In other words, closed school and then you ratified it. You know what I mean? So if we do anything outside the norm, then that we need to decide now. This covers that. That doesn't mean we won't come back meeting right after that and have you guys it again.
Does number six that the Public Information Act, is that the act that covers open meetings?
No, that's public information request.
Okay.
So,
I'm just wondering.
So as we get information requests, right now we're really not open for business. We're running a skeleton crew, so it's these don't count as business days.
Okay.
We have to respond to certain grievances. We have to respond to certain requests for information within X business days.
Okay.
And they've given us, again, the state's given us a lot of leeway since we are not in operation, really full operation with staff. Like there's people in this building right now. Then this day doesn't count as a business day, if you will. That's what that's referring.
Right. Do we still have even though this is a special meeting, do we still have under all these procedures, we still have the same posting of agenda and times required for that public posting before we can?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The only difference is they've expanded, if you will, the definition on emergency meetings. You can have emergency meetings, a normal meeting 72 hours. An emergency meeting,
right.
Depending on the situation, could be within 2 hours. So they've adjusted some notice requirements on and what is deemed an emergency in this particular crisis. But with that said, everything else is normal in terms of posting. This was posted, the link was posted, all
right.
Things.
Right. Okay. So basically items 1 through 10 here are giving you the authority up front to make these decisions when and if needed so that we don't have to reconvene for a special meeting as these arise or don't arise. Is that right?
I'm going to tell you, we're always, especially now that they've relaxed the requirements on remote meetings, we will try to meet on as much as makes sense, since it can be done rather painlessly in the moment. It's just we are outside of a window. I'll give you an example. If we have to make a decision or submit something within X hours, that doesn't qualify as an emergency under how the definition of an emergency to be able to meet. You've already covered me on the authorization.
Right.
Probably not doing a good job of explaining that, but that's.
Drew, on the page prior to this, on page 1, when is this? When are these? When is this adoption plan to terminate?
What now?
I'm just trying to see when the end of this resolution would be.
Oh, let's see if it's in here. Well, it's not going to put a date because no, y'all can, if you want, I can add a date of not up to whatever, and then have to revisit it if it's necessary.
Yeah. When's our next meeting?
April 20th.
Okay, so this is, you've got that this is adopted on April 20th. We're going to try to adopt it today, right?
Yeah, that was when we weren't going to have this. So I have thank you for pointing.
What if we say it's adopted? What if we say it's adopted today, but that it's only going to, it will be reviewed and possibly extended at our next scheduled board meeting?
Okay, you can make the motion that way if that's how you want to do it.
Yeah, that way we could. I would like to see this. This will terminate unless renewed at the April 20th board meeting.
Okay.
Any other questions or thoughts on this?
Say that again, Jim. What do you?
I'm proposing that if you look at the last sentence on page 9 of the packet, page 2 of 2 on the screen, that will be adopted today, but it will expire, at the end of business, unless renewed at our next board meeting.
In April.
I just don't like.
Yes.
April 20th. So
Yes.
it's revisited.
I just don't like doing something like this without an end in mind. So let's have it die at our next board meeting unless we vote to renew it. And if we're still under the circumstances, then I can't imagine we wouldn't do that. Other questions or concerns with this other issue to talk about?
I think that's good.
All right. Let's have a motion on that, please.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
All right, thank you, Deborah.
Huh?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, state it. So,
Okay, well, I make a motion to adopt this today, and we will revisit on April 20th at the next board meeting.
Good.
yeah, I'll second that.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All opposed? Hearing none. The motion is passed and carried.
And then let's go back to B, since that really isn't worded specifically in the other resolution, declaring a public purpose for the expenditure of district funds as it pertains to continuing to pay PISD employees. So this essentially allows us to pay everybody. Continue to pay everybody during our close.
Yeah. As you and I have talked, most of these people are continuing to work. Is that right? In some capacity.
All the professionals are. It's just that, and most of the paras but they're taking different shifts and things like that. Same with bus drivers, those kinds of things. But our position has been that no one is sitting at home eating bonbons. I mean, everybody's on call, ready to step up.
I'm at home eating bonbons. Okay.
So
Good.
all employees are still working at some capacity, still getting paid
Well,
This is to see that they
right
pay.
now.
all employees are getting paid, no exceptions. They all got their same paycheck
Yeah,
this week that they've been getting.
good.
Yeah, that should continue.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
I mean, we're
so
still.
you know, I mean,
we're
that's
still serving.
the funds. The commissioners made it abundantly clear that the funds have already been accounted for at the state level. So, I mean, their payments to us aren't going to be altered any based on this crisis.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that's why, you know, every district's position essentially has been, I believe, I can't speak for all 1,200 school districts, but since no one's budget's being hit by this crisis directly by the payments from the state, then everybody's pretty much still paying everybody the same way.
Yeah, I think as we talked about in our last meeting, or maybe it was in our finance committee meeting, I think the place we're going to expect to see something is going to be downstream quite a bit if the tax rolls are negatively impacted, if oil and gas revenues in the state continue to decline, but nothing in the immediate future.
Yeah, that's not even speculation. That's an absolute.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on this motion?
No.
I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Michelle.
Second.
Second? Is that Bill?
Yeah.
All right, Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, the motion carries.
We will, so you know, me and the cohort of soups will be meeting. We'll continue our conversations. We're still having them on whatever extension there might be from the April 3rd meeting, but I'll keep you guys in the loop on that.
Okay.
Good.
Again, as long as the slope is going straight up, you know, it's at the state and national level, I don't see much wiggle room here. But I think, as I mentioned to you before, I think the state's done what the state's going to do. Now it's going to be left up to the counties in terms of how they determine in terms of durations and shelter in place, not shelter in place, all that stuff.
Right.
But other than that, that's all I got, Mr. President.
Okay. Okay. Well, then we need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to go. Oh, I'm not sure who that was.
Okay. Go ahead, Jana.
Okay, I'll make a motion to go ahead and adjourn this special meeting.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, that was Kelly. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody wants to keep going? Hearing none. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate you pulling this together.
Thank you.
Everybody stay safe.
Hey, you too.
Okay, y'all
Thank you.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.